Welcome back to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where we discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football, but with a special emphasis on the black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. I'm your host, Blair Parks. Holla at ya, boy! And I am coming to you live from the happiest and most magical place on earth, Disney World here in Orlando, Florida. That explains my Mickey ears, here with the family on a much needed, much overdue vacation. By the time you see this, when this is posted, we will be back at home in Missouri, and back to life, back to reality. Missed you guys. It's been a awesome week. Gonna get ready to wrap it up here at Disney World this afternoon, then head on home like I just stated. This is gonna be a little bit of a mashup episode. I mean, normally I have 3 episodes a week, but this is going to kind of be a mashup, a quick Week 10 review, but primarily going to be the Week 11 preview show coming at you right now. I've got a great episode lined up for you. I've got 1 hour. Me and my wife said she'd be able to keep the kids preoccupied at the pool for 1 hour. So let's go ahead and get it. What do you say? Boom. All right, and I do have a few segments to share with you today. You see behind me, I've got Doc, the Hudson Hornet. You know, he's joining the show today, making a guest appearance here at the Art of Animation Resort. We got Doc doing this thing. So here we go. So the first thing I want to do, I want to start off with the Week 11 preview, and then we're kind of sprinkle in with a little pixie dust like Tinkerbell and Peter Pan would, a little bit of the Week 10 review. But before we get started, Week 10, I want to give a couple of quick, much overdue shout outs. First of all, to the Arizona Wildcats with their 10-3 victory over a depleted Cal team due to COVID issues. Arizona now has ended their 20-game losing streak, which, kind of a fun fact, that was actually the longest losing streak in the history of the Pac-12 conference. That's pretty awesome to think that there hasn't been a team that's lost that many times in a row in their storied history. So kudos, shout out to Arizona. Last shout out is UNLV, the Running Rebels, with their 31-17 victory over New Mexico in Week 10. They ended their 14-game losing streak. Well done, UNLV. And with both of those victories, here's another fun little fact, that as of now, entering Week 11, because of those 2 picked up victories, every single FBS Division I football team in this great nation now has at least 1 victory. Well done. So nobody is going to go winless on the year at the FBS level. Excellent stuff. Let me go now into my key matchups entering Week 11. We have plenty of them. Then I'm going to get into the updated playoff rankings, which came out yesterday evening, and then give you my updated team power rankings. So stay tuned for those. And as a reminder, I always appreciate any likes, any shares, any comments, any subscriptions. Let's get the word out there. Let's keep a good thing going. Get the word out there to all black and gold fans from near and far, everywhere in between, but all college football fans. So let's get it out there. So key matchups for Week 11. First one I want to bring to your attention is number 6 Michigan, and these rankings reflect the updated playoff rankings. Number 6 Michigan travels to Penn State, a Penn State team that had lost 3 in a row. Let's see how they respond. I mean, they did take care of business and beat Maryland last week. This is really an interesting game. And Michigan is favored, highly ranked, still kind of controversial ranked, and I'll get to that here shortly. But I expect a tough ball game here. I mean, this is kind of the Jim Harbaugh. This potentially could be the Jim Harbaugh last kind of farewell tour. If things go awry this Saturday in Happy Valley, I definitely think it'll be an unhappy valley potentially for Coach Jim Harbaugh of Michigan. So we'll see how this game plays out. Penn State has nothing but pride to play for with 3 losses now. They are out of the Big Ten East and playoff race, but can they spoil the party for Michigan? Have to wait and see how that one plays out on the gridiron. Next one is big tilt in the SEC. Number 11, Texas A&M, off of their big win last week over Auburn. They travel to number 15, Ole Miss. Big game, especially for the Aggies, because the Aggies, if they win out and somebody else can knock off Alabama, because they have the tiebreaker head-to-head over Alabama, if they pick up their second conference loss, A&M would then represent the SEC West in Atlanta. So a big game for Texas A&M. Their dreams are still alive, because after all, where I am, there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. It's only just a dream away. There we go. A&M's dreaming of big things in the SEC, but they need someone to knock off Alabama one more time. But they definitely better take care of business and be on alert, because this Ole Miss squad, even though they are potentially out of the race, they still have Heisman contender Matt Corral, who's definitely been big time on these stages. So big time game there. I can't wait to see how that one plays out. Next one, big rivalry game for us. Minnesota travels to number 20 Iowa. They fight, battle in a rivalry game for the Floyd of Rosedale, the Divine Swine. Love this matchup. Perhaps Minnesota is due for a victory. And this is a big game for both squads, but especially for Minnesota. They were shocked at home last week against Illinois. Now they have their second conference loss. So if they take care of Iowa, and then the last game of the season, the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe between Minnesota and Wisconsin, this year's edition is in the Twin Cities. So that actually will determine who wins the Big Ten West and goes to Indianapolis. So big game for Minnesota, big game for Iowa, who still isn't mathematically eliminated from the Big Ten West, but they're going to need to win out and then have someone else knock off Wisconsin. So big game for both squads. Can't wait to see this one. I love this annual rivalry game, one of my favorite games as a Hawkeye fan to watch. Next game I want to bring to your attention, huge in the Big 12. Number 8 Oklahoma travels to number 13 Baylor. Baylor did trip up over the weekend at TCU. Great ball game. I was able to watch the end of that at the hotel, at the resort. Big time game, big time win for Jerry Kill, the interim coach at TCU, following the termination and separation between TCU and Coach Gary Patterson, the legend. So this game has lost a little bit of luster, because now Baylor has 2 conference losses. Oklahoma is still sitting there undefeated. So still a big time game for both squads. Could Baylor still make an appearance with the head-to-head win in the Big 12 title game? Because remember, the Big 12 doesn't have divisions. Just the top 2 teams meet up at the end of the year for the conference title game. So we'll see. We'll see how this game plays out. A huge game in the Big 12. And last one I want to bring to your attention for matchups for Week 11. This is my spotlight game. Big one in the ACC, specifically in the ACC Atlantic. Number 16, NC State. The Wolfpack. They travel to number 12, Wake Forest, who was previously undefeated. They lost over the weekend against North Carolina at Chapel Hill, a game that this guy right here picked and told you it was going to happen. So they picked up their first loss. They did drop a little bit in the rankings, but still, this game could determine who wins the ACC Atlantic Division. Big time game there. Big time game at Wake Forest. And that's going to be an exciting game. Both of these squads can put up a lot of points. Might come down to, once again, who can outscore the other, or who may simply have the ball last. So that's my key matchups for Week 11 going into it. Next thing I want to share with you, my next segment is I was able to see last night the unveiling of the updated playoff rankings. I want to share those with you now and kind of some of my just general comments, analysis, and thoughts on them, as I always do. So let's start off from 25-1. Number 25 is Arkansas. They are making their initial appearance in the rankings. Number 24 is Utah, in the same boat. The Utes making their initial appearance in the playoff rankings. Number 23, finally, one of the very handful of undefeated teams left, UTSA, the Roadrunners, meep meep. They make their initial appearance at number 23. Number 22 is San Diego State, the Aztecs, hanging strong. Number 21 is Pitt. They moved up from last week after their big blowout win over Duke. At Duke, in trouble, I think, on the horizon for a long time. Duke head coach David Cutcliffe. We might see a coaching change there as well. Number 20 is Iowa. Iowa moved up a few spots, 2 spots actually, after their victory, but non-decisive victory over Northwestern on Saturday. Number 19 is Purdue. They make their initial appearance in the playoff rankings. The spoiler makers, as I'm going to call them, they knocked off their second top 5 team. They knocked off undefeated number 3 Michigan State over the weekend. And sorry, another game that this guy right here predicted and told you it was going to happen. So I was 2 for 2 on those top 10 games that I told you we were going to see non-ranked teams get upset ranked teams. I called them both. I'm going to give myself a little, pat on the back there. Maybe y'all should listen sometimes. Number 18 is Wisconsin. Number 17, Auburn. They moved down some spots after their loss at Texas A&M. Number 16 is NC State. Number 15 is the Ole Miss Rebels. Number 14 is BYU. The Cougars hanging strong. 13 is Baylor. Did move down after their loss at TCU. Number 12 is Wake Forest. Once again, they moved down too after their loss at North Carolina. Number 11 is Texas A&M. They moved up a couple spots after defeating Auburn. And now the top 10. We have at number 10 is Oklahoma State. The Cowboys in a good position to still potentially win or make the Big 12 title game. Number 9 is Notre Dame. Number 8, Oklahoma. They did not move anywhere. They had the bye week. They stayed at number 8, which is still a little bit of a surprise. Number 7 is Michigan State. They tumble a few spots after their loss at Purdue. Number 6 is Michigan. They had kind of a get-right game and beat up on hapless Indiana. Number 5, moving up a couple spots, is Cincinnati. The Bearcats got the victory at home over Tulsa, the Golden Hurricane, but not in convincing faction. Number 4 is Ohio State. The Buckeyes move into the playoff picture at the number 4 spot. Number 3 moving up a spot is the Oregon Ducks. They took care of business on the road at Washington against their rival. And sitting there at number 2 is Alabama, which I'm going to talk about, Bama's game over the weekend here shortly. And no surprise, still at number 1, best team in the nation is Georgia. So that is your updated playoff rankings. Now, a few initial comments that I have and analysis and thoughts. I'm going to start off, I'm going to go right to the top 10 with number 6, Michigan, and number 7, Michigan State. Have the committee been sleeping? Did not, 3 weeks ago, these two teams met on the gridiron? And who won that game? Yes, Michigan State won. They defeated Michigan. They both have the same record, sitting there at 1 loss, but yet, I guess this week they wanted to basically send a message and say, yeah, head-to-heads don't really matter all that much because Michigan is ranked ahead of the Michigan State team that just beat them a couple weeks ago. Makes no sense whatsoever. None. But, you know what? The 13 experts, I guess they have their reasons why, but I absolutely am dumbfounded by that, how they have Michigan ahead of the Spartans after their victory head-to-head. Don't really understand it. Just don't. Cincinnati moved up a spot. They're there at number 5, so there is still an outside shot that they can crash the playoff party, but at least they moved up. I thought that they would actually stay where they were, if not move a spot or two back, because they only won by 8 over Tulsa. And I know the committee likes to basically have the double standard to where, well, one team won who's highly ranked, but not in convincing fashion, but another team that is ranked a little bit higher, if they happen to stumble and win by, let's say, 6 points at home as a big-time favorite, to where, oh yeah, they'll go ahead and stay where they are, because it's different. It's different when you basically compare a close loss or when it's a Power 5 team versus another Power 5 opponent compared to a non-Power 5 team. And I'll make that connection here in a little bit. So Cincinnati does move up a spot, so good for them. And to make the connection between Cincinnati, I'm sorry, I'm not picking on Alabama and the fans. I can feel the eye rolls here, but you're number 2. And I already told you last week I have an issue with you being in the top 4 at the expense of Cincinnati. You still don't deserve to. And yes, you won. Over the weekend, Alabama took care of their rival in the SEC West, LSU. It was in Tuscaloosa, in T-Town. But Alabama was a 29-point favorite, and they won by 6 points, 1 possession. But then again, if that would have been Cincinnati at home as a 29-point favorite and win by 6, they'd be docked a spot or 2. But because it's SEC and the competition at the Power 5 level is just so much greater and better, we're not going to punish them. So yeah, they win by 6 points, 20-14, and don't move anywhere. But it also could be that a lot of teams behind them also lost. So I get that. Maybe there was just nowhere for them to move. But still, them being there at number 2, I'm sorry. I would have them number 4 or 5 right now, to where then saying, hey, you went out, you beat Georgia, you absolutely have played your way in, you deserve it, but I still don't know how good their best win is against Ole Miss. I really don't. I don't understand the Bama bump or the politics that go into Saban politics. Somebody please help me. I'm trying to keep my voice down here a little bit, get myself a little bit in check. Don't want to, disturb any of the other guests here at Disney. So yeah, that's the issue I have there with Alabama, and it's a legitimate issue. It just is. I don't understand it. Just don't get it. So that is your updated playoff rankings heading into Week 11. Now, off of that, I want to go into my updated team power rankings after what happened on the gridiron during Week 10. Every week, if you're a first-time viewer, every week I like to give my updated team power rankings. I always give my top 10 plus 2 to kind of let you know where I think teams should be, and it should be reflected in the playoff rankings. Sometimes yes, sometimes a little bit off, but I'm going to go ahead and give you those guys right now. So here is my updated team power rankings heading into Week 11. At number 1, I've got Georgia. No surprise there. They've been there for several weeks. They're going to remain there for a while. Number 2, I actually have them moving up 1 spot. I've got Cincinnati as my number 2 team on my updated team power rankings. Number 3, I have also up 1 spot. Even though they were on the bye, I can't punish somebody for not playing. I've got moving up to number 3, Oklahoma, up 1 spot from last week. Number 4, they did take care of business. They won by 10, 26-16 at Washington, a big-time winner-take-all kind of stakes game. I've got up 2 spots. Number 4, I have Oregon. I have Oregon sitting there at number 4. Number 5, also up 2 spots from last week. I've got Ohio State. I mean, yes, they ran into kind of an underwhelming opponent. They played on the road at Lincoln, at Nebraska over the weekend. Did come out with, I believe, a 9-point victory, but it was a 1-possession game pretty much the entire game. I mean, they didn't look all that impressive, but getting a victory gets you a victory. So they move up to the 5 hole, up 2 spots from last week. And I still have to have them behind Oregon. I just do, because Oregon beat them head to head. That's what some of you are asking yourselves. Why do you have Ohio State behind Oregon? That's the reason why, because to me, regular season matters. Head-to-head absolutely matters to me. Number 6, down 1 spot. They won, but like I said, by 6 as a 29-point favorite. I've got Alabama down 1 spot at number 6. They still could absolutely rise and climb into the top 4 to me. And before I continue, I do want to mention one thing, kind of a rewind button here. Rewind. That one more last thought on Bama being number 2 in the official playoff rankings by the committee, the 13 experts, that this is what they're saying. With them being at number 2, after that big time struggle against an LSU team that is now 4-5, a losing record, let's reward them by keeping them there. Basically, the message that the committee is sending is that even if Alabama wins out, which they could, and they get to the SEC title game, and if they lose in a close game to Georgia, they're still telling us as of now that we're still going to get Alabama in, that they're not going to drop outside of the top 4. That's exactly what the committee is sending. That's what they're telling us right now. That Alabama basically, no matter what, win, lose, or draw, is going to be a playoff contender. Just win out in the regular season, and this week they have a very tough New Mexico State team on their schedule, to where, yeah, you just lose in a close game to Georgia, you're going to find yourselves there. That's what they're telling us. So fast forward now, back to my team power rankings. Number 7, down 5 spots, I have Michigan State. After their loss to the Spoilermakers on Saturday, I got them. They're my big dropper this week, down to the 7 hole. Number 8, just behind Michigan State, is their in-state rival Michigan. No movement there from last week. I had them at the 8 spot. Keep them there at number 8. Number 9, up 1 spot from last week, I have the Oklahoma State Cowboys, still sitting there with 1 loss overall, in a great position to still win the Big 12 Conference. They play, hopefully, I look forward to that game so much. Last week of the season, the Bedlam game. I gotta love Bedlam. It's one of the best rivalry games. Oklahoma travels to Stillwater. Can't wait to see that. In the 10 spot this week, making their return to my power rankings. At number 10, I have Notre Dame. They get back into my power rankings this week following their victory over the weekend. Number 11, down 2 spots. After their loss to North Carolina, I've got Wake Forest sitting in the 11 spot. And returning to my power rankings following that big win at home over Auburn, I've got in the 12th spot the Texas A&M Aggies. So that is my updated team power rankings. Feel free, comment, like, share, subscribe. Let me know if you agree or disagree with how I have these teams ranked. Am I missing somebody? Is somebody too high? Is somebody too low? Please let me know. And I absolutely will share your commentary, your questions on air with the entire Black and Gold family. Appreciate you as always. Let me get a quick swig of water. It's a beautiful day here in Florida, by the way, pushing 80 degrees. Can't wait to get this wrapped up. I'm gonna go join the kids and the wife in the pool. And like I said, once you guys view this on Thursday, we'll be back home in Missouri. Back to life, back to jobs, back to school, everything else. But next thing I want to share with you is a little bit of commentary and analysis on our beloved Black and Gold squads. They are both in action this week. Give you a little bit of forecasting and thoughts on their matchups. The first one, we have the Battle of Columbias. Whose Columbia is better? South Carolina travels to Missouri this week in a game that Missouri absolutely must have if they're going to get themselves to bowl eligibility. South Carolina's coming off a very surprising win over the weekend. I mean, they not only won, but they absolutely waxed the floor with Florida, who's now lost 5 straight games. And I'm telling you, we did drive through Gainesville. People are not happy with Coach Dan Mullen. I'm telling you that right now. The sentiment here in the Sunshine State, they are not happy with their Florida Gators. So South Carolina, I mean, I think the final score was 40-10 over Florida. So definitely a huge momentum victory for South Carolina. Missouri had a tough task last week. They were on the road at Georgia. I mean, 34-6 was the final score, but there was no expectation for them to win that game, maybe not even be competitive. Connor Bazelak, the starting quarterback for Missouri, who, if you recall, 2 weeks ago he left at near the end of the fourth quarter at Vanderbilt. He was a little tinged up, and I told you on last week's show that if he was not 100%, if he was 99.2%, you sit him. You have to rest and take care of him, potentially to get you your 2 more victories to get to bowl eligibility. They did that. He did not play. So it's okay. There was no expectation to beat Georgia anyway, but this is a must-win game for Missouri. I mean, I think, can they knock off Florida, a team that is coming into next week? They play Florida. They've lost 5 games in a row, but I still think Florida will be slightly favored on the road. They come to Columbia. So can they maybe upset those guys to pick up a victory that maybe I didn't see them getting? I think so. So this is a huge game. Huge game. I can't wait to see how this one plays out. They're going to have to stop the run of South Carolina. That's absolutely, obviously, that's been Missouri's biggest issue this year, is stopping the run on defense. Can they limit South Carolina's rushing attack? That's going to be the key. And also, don't turn the ball over. Covet your most prized possession, the football. They do that, I think they'll win. But this is maybe now a sneaky game with that big South Carolina victory over Florida. This is going to be a tough one. And South Carolina's kind of been a thorn in the side of Missouri a few years here and there that I can recall in the recent past. So we'll see what happens with our Missouri Tigers. Next one, Minnesota travels to number 20 Iowa. I already brought this one up, one of my key matchups for this week. The battle for the Floyd of Rosedale trophy, the Divine Swine. Yes, folks, it is a trophy of a pig. If you don't believe me, Google it. You'll see it for yourself. Already kind of set this one out a little bit. I mean, big game, especially in the Big Ten West. Both teams are not eliminated from winning the West and getting to Indianapolis. Minnesota finds themselves in a better spot. They just need to win out, and that would include knocking off one of their other rivals, Wisconsin, at the last game of the year for Paul Bunyan's Axe. Iowa, they win out, and somebody can knock off Wisconsin. They would go to Indianapolis as the winner of the Big Ten West. And if you recall, last week I told you, based off of Iowa's issues on the offensive line, I still believe they will pick up one more loss at some point this year. I did pick them to beat Northwestern. I didn't think it would come last week, and I was right about that. And there has been a quarterback change at Iowa. Late in the first quarter, Spencer Petras, absolutely you could tell he wasn't 100%. He was knocked out late in the fourth quarter 2 weeks ago at Wisconsin. He did start against Northwestern over the weekend, but his first 3 passes were at the feet of his receivers, did not look ready to play. Alex Padilla, the backup, came in, guided Iowa to the victory, 17-12, but they needed their defense at the end of the game to make another stand, and they did force a turnover. They tallied 3 more interceptions over the weekend, so now they have 19 on the year. Very impressive stat for the Iowa defense. So maybe Alex Padilla can give them a little bit more oomph on the offensive end, but it's maybe something that also happened out of necessity. He is listed as the starter for this game, but with Iowa's offensive line issues, I mean, Spencer Petras was running for his life half of the time. but he's not somebody who's very fleet of foot. Alex Padilla does have a little bit more mobility and escapability. So maybe it just comes down to this is the best matchup. This gives us a better chance to have a guy in there who can scramble a little bit more, buy a little bit more time, and make some more plays happen. So maybe it's going to be a change out of necessity. But I think primarily it was because Spencer Petras was hurt. And I think, let's say after the first few series, Alex Padilla can't muster or create any offense. I think that he'll be given the hook fairly quick to go back to Petras if he's 100%. So big time game in Iowa City. Can't wait to watch this one. I love this game. This is one of Dad's favorite games every year. He always would say, no matter what happened with Iowa's overall record, one of two things hopefully the Hawks did. And hopefully they would beat Michigan, ruin their Rose Bowl chances, or at least win the Pig. So we'll see what happens this year since we don't play Michigan. So big time game. Can't wait to watch the battle for Floyd. So that's a little bit of my initial thoughts and analysis on the black and gold matchups for this week. And make sure next week it's going to be the same schedule. Normally I have a show on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Next week I have a lot of work to catch up on. So I plan on having 3 shows in 3 days, a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Tuesday show will be the Week 11 review. The Wednesday show will be my updated power rankings. And then the Thursday show will be the normal next week's preview show, which will be Week 12. So next thing we get into is my favorite segment, everybody's favorite segment, is the Pick'em segment. And Week 11, the guest picker tournament continues. Facing off this week, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, and Thunderdome is my brother against Brad. Winner advances in the tournament. And as normal, I'll be taking on my former co-host, Missouri fan number 1, Charlie. And to bring you up to speed on where we are currently, I am 2 games behind Charlie. I did win picks last week, and I'll give you those results. So I am chipping away at his lead in Pick'em. We have this ongoing competition, the entire regular season. We both wanted to end up at 70% or better. We're going to need a little bit of help to get there, but currently I'm just behind Charlie. So let me give you last week's results. Your boy here went 10-5. Charlie went 8-7. And our guest picker tournament last week, we had a matchup of Caleb versus my kids, Connor and Eliana. And in the year of upsets, they do happen. The kids come out on top, going 8-7. So the kids advance to the next round of the Pick'em tournament. And I have all picks here in front of me, mine, Charlie's, Brad's, and Anthony's. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before I do that, I do want to, give me 1 second here. I do want to share with you my trap games from last week. I always like to kind of revisit. Remember, I always give you 4 to 5 trap games, and I've seen him here several times. My guy at Galaxy's Edge, he's been here. Admiral Akbar himself. It's a trap. My trap games. Last week I gave you 4 of them. Let's revisit to see how they turned out. And I had myself a good week. Not only did I pick the 2 upsets of top 10 teams with Michigan State and Wake Forest going down, but my trap games, I was 4 for 4. I told you, Michigan State, watch out for Purdue after your big win over arch rival Michigan. You lost 40-29 in West Lafayette. I got that one right. And number 9, Wake Forest at North Carolina. I said maybe Wake Forest would be looking ahead to this week's matchup against NC State. They took the loss at Chapel Hill, 58-55. Got that one right, as I've already pointed out to you. And I also put Baylor on Trap Alert. They traveled to TCU. This week, Baylor hosts Oklahoma, that big game in the Big 12. Baylor lost 30-28 at TCU. And the last one, I said Illinois at number 20 Minnesota. I told you I put them on Trap Alert, Minnesota, because maybe they were looking ahead to this week's matchup at number 20 Iowa for Floyd of Rosedale. And they lost at home to Illinois 14-6. So this guy, your boy, was 4 for 4 last week in trap games. Had myself a good week, but the cherry on the top was also winning the pick'ems last week. So that's where we are. Now let's get to this week's pick'em. Let's get my picks. All right, I got everything laid out here in front of me. First game that made the pick'em short list this week is number 1 Georgia travels to Tennessee. Can Georgia continue to flex, shut out, and take care of business with their defense? Let their defense do the talking and offense score just enough points to win. Tennessee's coming off a big win against their rival on the road at Kentucky. This team can absolutely score a lot of points, but can they simply score enough against that vaunted Georgia defense and slow down the Georgia offense? Let's see. So let's start off with our guest pickers first. Anthony, he likes UGA, big. Brad, he also likes Georgia. Charlie, going with Georgia as well. Me, I think there's a potential for Tennessee to pull the shocking upset, but I think Georgia's just going to be a little bit too much. We all like Georgia in this matchup. Next game, big time tilt, one of my key matchup games. Number 11, Texas A&M travels to number 15, Ole Miss. Big time game in the SEC West, especially for A&M, like I kind of presented to you. They win out. Somebody else knocks off Alabama. They win the SEC West. Can their dreams stay alive? Let's see. Our guest pickers. Anthony is going with the Ole Miss Rebels at home to pull the upset. Brad is going with the Aggies of Texas A&M. Charlie also likes Texas A&M. Me, I like this Ole Miss team at home. I think they absolutely can definitely put up points. We all know that. It comes down to, can their defense slow down and make enough stops against A&M, who is a little bit more of a physical team? I'm going to go with offense and my guy Matt Corral. I like Ole Miss to get it done at home. So we definitely have a little bit of disagreement there among the four of us. Now, next docket, big time rivalry game in the ACC. Two teams that are absolutely down this year. Miami travels to Florida State. Big time matchup here in the Sunshine State where I am right now. Let's see how our guest pickers like this one. Anthony, my brother, he likes Florida State. He likes the Seminoles at home. Brad, he likes Florida State as well, a little surprising. Charlie, he likes the U. He likes Miami to get it done on the road. Me, I like this quarterback of the future that they found there at Miami. Van Dyke, I believe is his name. Boy, guy can definitely ball out. I like Miami on the road. I think they've got enough offense to get it done in Tallahassee. Next game on the docket, one of my key matchups I shared with you, is number 6 Michigan at Penn State. Definitely a big-time pride game here for Penn State, a pride spot for them. Can Michigan stay in the Big Ten East race? They would definitely have to win this game, knock off Ohio State to claim the division, which would be Jim Harbaugh's first. Or are we on Harbaugh alert to where if he loses this game, those cries for his ousting will only get louder. The yells will continue to boom. Let's see how we see this game coming out. Anthony, he likes Penn State at home. Good pick. Brad, he likes Michigan on the road. Charlie, he also likes the Wolverines. Me, I look at this game and think this Penn State team has problems running the ball. Their defense is still very, very stout. You're going to have 100,000 plus rabid fans for this one. I think Michigan runs into a trap. I think they are just going to struggle with this game. I like Penn State at home as well to get it done. Next game on the docket, we have big one in the Pac-12 North. Washington State travels to number 3 Oregon with a big-time upset. In Eugene, Washington State actually would move into a tie, but they'd have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Oregon. Let's see if Oregon can continue their playoff run. Let's see how people think this is going to play out. So Anthony, he has the Ducks winning at home. So does Brad. Charlie also likes Oregon. Me, I think this is a big-time opportunity for Washington State. I mean, they took care of business, surprisingly, in the desert at Arizona State. 2 weeks ago, a game which your boy right here called with all their turmoil going on after losing their coach. But I think in this spot, Oregon's too much. I think Oregon could potentially trip up, but I don't think this is going to be the matchup. We all like Oregon. Next game up is number 8 Oklahoma at number 13 Baylor, one of my key matchups. Big time tilt in the Big 12. Let's see how we see this game playing out. Anthony, he likes Oklahoma on the road. Brad likes Baylor. He likes the Bears at home to bounce back, pull the big time upset. Charlie, he likes the Sooners on the road. Me, I think a bye week, you give Caleb Williams more reps, even though he has been running the first team for a while. I think they come out ready to play. I think their defense does just enough. I like Oklahoma as well. Next game, a big one in the Mountain West Division. I love saying that. Is Nevada travels to number 22 San Diego State. I love quarterback Carson Strong of Nevada. San Diego State, I've picked against them a lot this year. I always seem to come out on the losing end. So maybe I've learned my lesson, maybe I haven't. Let's see right now how we see this game playing out. Anthony, he likes the Aztecs at home to get it done. Brad, he likes Nevada. He likes the Wolfpack on the road to get it done. Charlie, he is going with San Diego State, the Aztecs as well. Me, I think Carson Strong will be the best player on the field. I've picked against San Diego State all season. I've gotten burned, but hey, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. I think this is the week I get it right. I'm going with Carson Strong in Nevada to pull the upset at San Diego. Next game up, big one, number 9 Notre Dame travels to Virginia. Big time game for Notre Dame. They're facing a stud quarterback in Brennan Armstrong of Virginia. Let's see if Notre Dame can continue their playoff push to where they go 11-1. And the way that we're seeing all these teams lose around them, the chaos that's happened this season, they could easily find themselves in the playoff field with a little help. Let's see how we see this game playing out. My brother, Anthony, he likes Virginia at home to outscore them. Good pick. Brad, he's going with Notre Dame. Charlie, he's also taking the Fighting Irish. Me, I love this Virginia squad. I mean, I think there was a shootout 2 weeks ago that it was 66-60, I think, when Virginia traveled to BYU. Defense was optional, obviously. But I think Notre Dame has a little too much defense. They'll be able to control the pace of play, be a little bit more grinded out style. I like Notre Dame to pick up a big time road win. So I like the Fighting Irish in this matchup. Next game. Beware the spoiler makers. Can they do it again? They've already knocked off number 2 Iowa, and then last week knocked off number 3 Michigan State. So number 19 Purdue travels to number 4 Ohio State. Will the Buckeyes be their next victim? Let's see how this plays out. Our pickers, we've got Anthony. This game, he likes the spoiler makers to do it again. Anthony's going with Purdue. Brad, he likes the Buckeyes in the horseshoe. Charlie, he's also taken Ohio State. Me, I would love to take Purdue again. I think they will absolutely put up points against the Ohio State defense. I think a lot of people are looking at this game as a potential layup for Ohio State. I absolutely do not think it's going to be that. I think Purdue will challenge them. They'll give them all they can handle and more. but I'm just going to go with Ohio State at home with 100,000 fans and just too much talent on the field. So I'm going with Ohio State in this matchup. Now we get to our spotlight games of the week, to where every week we always pick the black and golds, Missouri and Iowa when they're playing. I always like to have one academy game, a game that includes either Army, Air Force, or Navy. I always like to have my non-Power 5 matchup spotlight game of the week. So give some teams some love who don't get a lot of coverage or exposure. I always like to have an FCS spotlight game of the week. Great football's played at the lower level of Division I. And then my spotlight game of the week. So let's start with our spotlight games. First one is South Carolina at Missouri, the Battle of the Columbias. A must-win game for Missouri. Our black and golds of the Tigers need it to get to bowl eligibility. Big-time spot here for Coach Drink. Let's see how we see this game playing out. Anthony, at home, he likes Missouri to get it done. Brad, he's also going with Missouri. Charlie, he's taking the Tigers at home as well. This was a tough one for me. I pondered it very much, but just seeing what South Carolina did, is that more indicative of South Carolina finding something, or Florida continued to struggle? Maybe a little bit of both. That's what I think it is. I just think that was the worst thing that could have happened for Missouri, for South Carolina to score that big-time victory. I think they come into Columbia, Missouri, find a way to win. I'm picking South Carolina in this matchup. It would be a devastating loss potentially for Missouri, but we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully I'm wrong. Next matchup, the black and golds of Iowa. Minnesota comes to number 20 Iowa for the Floyd of Rosedale rivalry game. Let's see how we pick this game. Anthony, he's taking the Hawkeyes at home. Brad, he's taking Minnesota. He likes PJ Fleck to row the boat into Iowa City, pull off the upset. He's taking Goldie, the Golden Gophers. Charlie, he's taking the Hawkeyes at home. Me, I think potentially that Minnesota is due for a victory. Iowa has won 6 straight against Minnesota, so all 4 against PJ Fleck, even though this program is rising under Coach Fleck, and I love him. I think he's a great coach. The ball beauty, my number 2 man crush in the Big Ten behind Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. But I think at home, Alex Padilla will get to really see how good the future of the Iowa QB situation is. Will he be able to take care of the ball, make enough plays on offense? I think the crowd aids him big time. And I just think that Coach Kirk Ferentz is in the head of PJ Fleck at Minnesota. I'm taking Iowa at home to pull off the victory. And to me, that's really an upset. Even though I believe Iowa is favored in this matchup, to me, that's going to be an upset. Because I think Minnesota is potentially a better team than Iowa. But I just think Iowa finds a way to get it done this week. All right? Next spotlight game is the Academy Spotlight Game of the Week. We have Air Force. They travel to Colorado State. The battle for Colorado Springs. Let's see how we see this game playing out. Anthony, he likes the Flyboys, Air Force. Brad, he's also taken the Air Force Academy to get it done. Charlie, also going with the Flyboys. Me, I like Colorado State's mobile kind of combination quarterback, a dual threat. He can run, pass, scramble. I like Colorado State. I'm going with the Rams in this matchup. Air Force continues to burn me. They burned me last week, losing to Army in overtime. They continue to let me down, so I'm taking the Rams. Next game is the non-Power 5 matchup game of the week. We have the UAB Blazers travel to the Marshall Thundering Herd. Big time game in Conference USA. Let's see how we see this game playing out. Anthony, he's taken We Are Marshall. He's going with the Thundering Herd at home there in West Virginia. Brad, he's also taking Marshall. Charlie, he's going with Marshall as well. Me, I love this UAB squad. They've had nothing but success, especially after being forgotten, abandoned, and even canceled for 2 seasons, but they've come back hard. But I think this Marshall team at home is too much. We all like the Thundering Herd of Marshall to get it done. Next is my FCS Spotlight Game of the Week. And this week, all eyes turn to the Ohio Valley. We have a matchup, the battle for Nashville. The Austin P Governors take on Tennessee State. Let's see how we see this game playing out. Anthony, he likes the Governors because they're the Governors of Austin P. Brad, he's taking Tennessee State to get it done. Charlie is going with Austin P. Me, I just got a feeling that Tennessee State gets it done. I'm taking Tennessee State in this one. And now our Spotlight Game of the Week. This is it, the climax of the Pick'em segment. Big time game, number 16, NC State travels to number 12, Wake. Big time game in the ACC Atlantic for dominance. Let's see how the Pickers see this one going. Anthony, he's taking, enough said. He's taking the Wolfpack. Brad, he's going with Wake Forest at home. Charlie, he's also taking the Demon Deacons. Me, man, I told you earlier this year during my predictions and preview episodes at the start of the season and the preseason, I like this NC State team a lot. I picked them to be a big-time sleeper. They've proven to be in the ACC. But I just think at home, this Wake Forest team, they know how to play. They can put up points. Their defense is a little bit porous at times. But I think they don't need to be a defensive juggernaut to win this game or the ACC for that matter. I like Wake Forest at home to bring it home. So that's how we have the picks playing out this week. Good luck to my boy Charlie. Good luck to my brother Anthony and Brad. Hopefully we'll see one of them advance in the guest picker tournament and one goes home, one's out. And last thing, I'd like to share with you my trap games for week 11. First one, I'm going to put Oregon, number 3 Oregon on standby because this week they host Washington State. But next week, Oregon travels to Utah, number 24 ranked Utah, I believe now, in the playoff rankings. So that is a huge game within the Pac-12 conference. So maybe they're looking ahead to that game. Beware of the Cougars, Oregon. You're on trap alert. Next game is number 19 Purdue at number 4 Ohio State. I'm putting Ohio State on trap alert because next week you host number 7 Michigan State. You're definitely going to need to win that game to win the Big Ten East, get to the Big Ten title game, and potentially your goal is to get to the playoffs again, to get to the party. But you better not be looking past the spoiler makers of Purdue. You're on trap alert, Ohio State. Next one is Iowa State at Texas Tech. I'm putting Iowa State on trap alert because next week they travel to number 8 Oklahoma. So maybe they're looking past the Red Raiders who had a coaching change 2 weeks ago. They're looking past the Raiders there in Lubbock. So be on the lookout. You're on trap alert, Iowa State. And that's a big game for Iowa State. That really could define their season to where a team that had such high expectations, I drank their water. I actually predicted they would be a playoff contender. They would make the playoffs. They're not going to, but that would be a huge signature win for Coach Matt Campbell and the Cyclones. But first things first, you're on trap alert. Don't look past Texas Tech. And the last game is UCF travels to SMU. I'm putting SMU on trap alert. They were recently undefeated, ranked number 19. Now they've lost 2 games in a row. But this is a huge game because next week they travel to number 5 Cincinnati. So that could be a huge win, signature win for Coach Sonny Dykes there at SMU. Definitely a guy who is going to move on to a Power 5 coaching position at some point. The question really comes down to which one. So that'd be huge for him, a long way for his resume to make himself more attractive to Power 5 suitors. But first things first, SMU, don't be looking past UCF at home for next week's big matchup at Cincinnati. So that's it. That's the episode for this week. Once again, I appreciate all of you. I love you. Thank you for your time, your support. Once again, please feel free, like, share, subscribe, comment the hell out of the show. Let me know how I'm doing. If there's something you'd like me to present, a topic or a discussion to present to all of us, let me know. I'd be more than happy to get it on air. Next week, once again, I'll be back 3 times. And that's it for this week's episode. We'll be heading home. We're out of here soon. And when you see this, I'll be back in Missouri. But until then, thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the football, peace, prosperity, progress. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.